Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The gun didn't shake, but the hand holding it did. Just a tremor, a hairline fracture in the composure of the man who had the barrel pressed against my forehead. Give me one reason, Cashin growled, his voice a low timbre that vibrated through the rain-slicked alleyway. Why I shouldn't finish what I started 5 years ago. You're supposed to be a corpse, Julian. Ghosts don't bleed. I'm not a ghost, I whispered, the cold metal biting into my skin, the scent of his expensive cologne mixing with the garbage and rot of the slums. And I didn't die because you made a mistake. You buried an empty coffin, Cashin, but you left me in a hell far worse than a grave. I saw his eyes flicker, those terrifying heterochromatic eyes, one ice blue, the one dark hazel, widening in a shock he refused to acknowledge. He didn't know. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. The most dangerous man in the city, the alpha of the Volkov Bratva, truly believed I had died 5 years ago. He didn't know I had spent every single night of those years in a black site prison. He didn't know about the torture. And he certainly didn't know about the 2 shivering children currently hiding behind the dumpster 3 feet away, clutching my torn coat. 5 years ago, I was Julian Vane, the prized pianist of the conservatory and the secret lover of Cashin Volkov. It was a relationship doomed by every metric of our world. I was the son of a debt-ridden gambler. He was the heir to an empire built on blood and extortion. We were fire and gasoline. He was possessive, overwhelming, and intoxicating. I was naive, believing that love could bridge the gap between a monster and a man. I was wrong. When information about the Volkov shipments leaked to the feds, the finger pointed solely at me. My father's debts had been paid off mysteriously the same day the shipment was seized. It was a setup, a frame job so precise it left no room for doubt. The Volkov Council demanded blood. They demanded the traitor be skinned. Cashin had looked at me then, his face a mask of marble, and ordered his men to take care of it. I thought that was my death sentence. I thought the love of my life had ordered my execution. I was dragged into a van, a bag thrown over my head. But the bullet never came. Instead, I woke up in a cell. Not a federal prison, but the pit, a privately owned dungeon run by the sprawling criminal network that rivaled the Volkovs. I wasn't there as a prisoner of the state. I was there as a toy, forgotten and erased. The first month was agony. The second month was when the sickness started. I thought it was the grim food, the stress. But when the prison doctor, a man with cold hands and dead eyes, told me I was pregnant, the world shattered. An omega male pregnancy is rare, dangerous, and in a place like the pit, it is a death sentence. I spent 9 months protecting my stomach from guards' batons and the cruelty of other inmates. I gave birth in silence, biting through a leather strap so my screams wouldn't alert the warden to kill the mongrels. I birthed twins on a cold concrete floor, severing the cords with a stolen razor blade. For 4 years, I raised them in the shadows of that prison, bribing guards with favors, hiding them during inspections, starving myself so they could eat my rations. I named them Leo and Luna. They were my reason to breathe. They were my vengeance. Then, the riot happened. A fire in the West Wing. In the chaos, I took them. We ran until our lungs burned, blending into the city's underbelly. I had been free for 3 days when Cashin found me. The rain plastered my hair to my skull. I stared up at Cashin, the barrel of his gun still kissing my forehead. Speak, he commanded, his thumb tightening on the hammer. Who are you working for? Who resurrected you to spy on me? Was it the Italians? The Triad? I work for no one. I choked out, my hands raised in surrender. I just want to leave, Cashin. Let me go. Let you go. He let out a dark, humorless laugh. I spent a year mourning you. I built a shrine to your memory. I tortured the men I thought killed you too quickly. And here you are, scavenging in the trash like a rat. He grabbed my jaw, his leather gloves smooth against my rough, scarred skin. He tilted my head back, forcing me to look at him. He looked older, harder. There were streaks of silver in his obsidian hair, and the lines around his mouth were etched deep with cruelty. He was no longer the man who used to play the cello while I played the piano. He was pure violence now. Daddy, the small, trembling voice cut through the tension like a knife. Cashin froze. His pupils contracted. Slowly, Terrifyingly, he lowered the gun and turned his head toward the dumpster. Leo stepped out. He was tiny for his age, malnourished, wearing a shirt 3 sizes too big. But he had Cashin's eyes. That unmistakable, rare heterochromia, one blue, one hazel. Luna peeked out behind him, clutching a ragged stuffed bear, her dark hair curling exactly the way Cashin's did at the nape of his neck. The silence that descended on the alley was heavier than the lead in Cashin's gun. Cashin looked at the boy, then at the girl, then back at me. The gun fell from his hand, clattering onto the wet pavement with a splash. Julian, he breathed, the name sounding foreign on his tongue. What? What is this? I stepped in front of the children, shielding them with my emaciated body. Don't touch them, I hissed, a feral growl rising in my throat. I was no longer the soft pianist he knew. I was a mother who had killed a man in prison to keep bread in my children's hands. If you want to kill me, do it. But they walk away. Cashin looked as if he had been struck by lightning. He took a step forward, his hand reaching out, shaking. They have my eyes. They are my children, I snapped. How old? He demanded, his voice cracking. 4. The math hit him instantly. 5 years since the death. 9 months of pregnancy. For years of life. You were pregnant, he whispered, horror dawning on his face. When I sent you away, when you ordered me killed, I corrected him, venom dripping from my words. No, he roared the word, startling Luna, who began to cry. Cashin flinched at the sound of her tears. He looked panicked, a warlord who didn't know how to handle a crying child. I never ordered you killed, Julian. I ordered you extracted. I set up a fake hit. You were supposed to be taken to a safe house in Switzerland. I did it to save you from the council. I stared at him. The rain chilled me to the bone, but his words froze my heart. Switzerland. I laughed, a broken, hysterical sound. I was in the pit, Cashin, for 5 years. I gave birth on a concrete floor while guards took bets on whether I'd survive. I raised your children in a cage. Cashin's face went white. Ashen. He looked like a man watching his soul get ripped out of his chest. The pit, he choked out. Vittorio's prison? Yes. Vittorio told me the extraction went wrong. He told me you died in the crossfire. He brought me a body. Burnt beyond recognition. Wearing your ring. Vittorio owns the pit, I said dully. He framed me, Cashin, and he kept me as a trophy. The rage that radiated off Cashin then was palpable. It wasn't directed at me anymore. It was a cold, expanding supernova of violence. He looked at the children again, seeing the poverty, the fear, the hunger in their hollow cheeks. Get in the car, he said, his voice terrifyingly calm. No, Julian. He stepped closer, ignoring my flinch, and wrapped his arms around me. He didn't care about the filth on my clothes or the smell of the alley. He pulled me into his cashmere coat, burying his face in my neck. He was trembling. Please. I am begging you. Let me fix this. Let me feed them. I was too weak to fight him. And looking at Leo and Luna, shivering in the downpour, I knew I had no choice. The drive to the Volkov estate was silent. The twins fell asleep instantly on the heated leather seats, exhausted. I sat stiffly, refusing to look at Cashin. When we arrived, the staff looked at me as if they were seeing a revenant. Cashin barked orders, his voice thundering through the marble halls. Doctors were summoned. Chefs were woken up. A wing of the mansion was to be prepared. I was taken to a bathroom that was larger than the entire cell I had lived in for 5 years. The hot water felt like forgiveness against my skin. When I emerged, wrapped in a robe that cost more than my life was worth, I found the twins sitting at a massive dining table, devouring plates of pasta and fruit. Cashin was sitting across from them, just watching. He hadn't changed his clothes. He was still wet from the rain, staring at Leo and Luna with a mixture of awe and devastation. They eat like they haven't seen food in days, he said softly as I entered. They haven't, I replied, sitting beside Luna and wiping sauce from her chin. She flinched, then leaned into my touch. Cashin closed his eyes, his fist clenching on the table until his knuckles turned white. Vittorio is dead, he said. I made the call from the car. My men are currently dismantling his organization piece by piece. He will not die quickly. Good, I said. The old Julian would have been horrified by such violence. The new Julian wanted to watch. Julian. Cashin reached across the table, covering my hand with his. His palm was warm, rough, Familiar. I know I can't ask for your forgiveness. I failed you. I was the alpha, and I failed to protect my mate. I failed to protect my pups. The use of the primal terms, *mate, pups*, sent a shiver down my spine. It was an acknowledgement of a bond he had tried to deny for years. I don't want your apologies, Cashin, I said, pulling my hand away. I want safety. I want a guarantee that no one will ever touch them again. I will burn this city to the ground before I let anyone harm a hair on their heads, he vowed, his eyes burning with intensity. You are the lady of this house. They are the heirs. Everyone will know. Tomorrow, we go to the council. The council wanted me dead, I reminded him. The council answers to me now, Cashin snarled. And if they have a problem with my family, the council will cease to exist. The next few weeks were a blur of luxury and tension. I was wary, waiting for the other shoe to drop. But Cashin was relentless. He didn't try to force me into his bed. He slept on the floor outside the twins' room the first 3 nights, like a guard dog. He spoon-fed Luna when she was too tired to eat. He taught Leo how to play chess, his patience infinite. I watched him fall in love with them, and in doing so, I felt the ice around my heart beginning to crack. But the trauma of the pit was deep. I woke up screaming almost every night, thrashing against invisible chains. Every time, Cashin was there. He would burst into the room, hold me while I sobbed, and whisper promises of safety. I've got you, he would say, rocking me back and forth. I'm here. You're not there anymore. But peace is a luxury in our world, and secrets have a way of bleeding out. It happened a month after my return. We were in the garden. For the first time, I was playing the piano, a grand Steinway Cashin had bought to replace the one I lost. The twins were chasing butterflies. Cashin was watching from the terrace, a rare smile gracing his lips. The gates crashed open. It wasn't the council. It was the remnants of Vittorio's faction, a suicide squad looking for revenge for their fallen boss. 3 SUVs screeched onto the lawn, and men with automatic rifles poured out. Get down, Cashin roared, vaulting over the terrace railing. I didn't think. I grabbed the twins and threw them behind the heavy piano. Bullets shattered the French windows, glass raining down like diamonds. Stay down, I screamed at the kids, covering their bodies with mine. Cashin was a blur of motion. He didn't have a weapon on him, but he didn't need one. He tackled the first gunman, snapping his neck with a sickening crunch, and took the rifle. Then, the demon of the Volkov Bratva was unleashed. He moved with a terrifying grace, a symphony of violence. He wasn't fighting for territory or money. He was fighting for us. He took a bullet to the shoulder, but didn't even stumble. He decimated them, painting the pristine green grass red. But one gunman, wounded and desperate, had flanked us. He stumbled into the music room, raising his pistol at me and the children. Die, Omega scum, he screamed. I froze. I saw the barrel. I saw the end. But then a shadow eclipsed the sun. Cashin was there. He had thrown himself between us and the gun. Bang! Cashin jerked, a grunt of pain escaping his lips as the bullet took him in the chest. But he didn't fall. With a roar that sounded more beast than man, he lunged forward, grabbing the gunman by the throat and slamming him into the wall with enough force to crack the plaster. He didn't stop until the man stopped moving. Silence fell over the estate. The security team was finally swarming in, but it was too late. The threat was neutralized. Cashin turned to us. Blood was blooming rapidly across his white shirt, staining it crimson. He stumbled, his knees hitting the floor. Cashin! I screamed, scrambling out from behind the piano. I told the twins to stay put and ran to him. I caught him as he collapsed. His skin was clammy, his breathing ragged. Did they touch you? He wheezed, blood bubbling past his lips. No, I sobbed, pressing my hands against the wound in his chest, trying to staunch the flow. No, we're safe. You saved us. You stupid, arrogant alpha, don't you dare die on me. He looked up at me, his eyes hazy. He reached up, his bloody hand cupping my cheek. I kept my promise, Julian. I protected the pack. You did. I cried, tears blinding me. You did. Just stay with me. Please. I love you, he whispered, his eyes fluttering shut. I always have. The waiting room of the private hospital was sterile and cold, triggering memories of the pit. But this time, I wasn't in chains. I was sitting on a plush chair, Leo and Luna asleep on my lap. The surgery took 6 hours. When the doctor finally came out, he looked exhausted. He lost a lot of blood, the doctor said, removing his mask. The bullet missed his heart by millimeters. He's strong. He'll live. I let out a breath I had been holding for hours, collapsing back into the chair. It was 2 days before he woke up. When he did, I was sitting by his bedside, holding his hand. "You're alive," I said softly. Cashin blinked, focusing on me. A weak smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Can't get rid of me that easily." I squeezed his hand. "I don't want to get rid of you." He looked at me, searching for the truth in my eyes. "Does that mean you forgive me?" "I don't know about forgive," I said honestly. "The past is a heavy thing to carry, Cashin. But," I leaned down, brushing my lips against his forehead, "I'm willing to let you help me carry it. For them. And for us. I'll spend every day making it up to you," he vowed. "I will give you the world, Julian." "I don't need the world," I whispered, resting my head on his uninjured shoulder. "I just need you to be the father they deserve. And the man I remember." "Done," he breathed. 6 months later, the Volkov estate was transformed. The dark, brooding atmosphere was gone, replaced by the sound of children's laughter. The piano in the music room was played daily. I stood on the balcony, watching Cashin in the garden. He was fully recovered, though a jagged scar remained on his chest, a permanent reminder of his devotion. He was currently on his hands and knees, letting Luna put a flower crown on his head while Leo rode on his back. The ruthless Mafia Alpha, the king of the underworld, brought to his knees by a 4-year-old girl. He looked up and caught my eye. He smiled, a genuine, open smile that reached his eyes. He mouthed the words, "I love you." I smiled back, touching the ring on my finger. We had walked through hell, through betrayal, prison, and death. But we had come out the other side. Not unscathed, but together. And that is how the viper tamed the wolf. If you enjoyed seeing Cashin embrace his role as a father and burn down the world for Julian, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you forgive a husband who unknowingly left you to rot in prison, even if he took a bullet for you later? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then,